Hey, how's it going everybody? It's Tanner here and welcome back to another Ninjago video here on the channel. In today's video we're going to be doing something very exciting by looking at some of the more darker and depressing moments from the TV show. Now to the outside person, Ninjago might not seem like the most darkest of TV shows, I mean especially considering it's about literal Lego ninja people, but believe it or not, Ninjago actually has a lot going on within its story that actually does, provide a sort of dark tone in very specific spots. While it is still very much a show meant for children, other people enjoy it, such as myself, almost specifically because of these more dark and more mature moments. Now, I do have a list of 10 instances here that I will be covering in this video. Now, keep in mind, even though this video is titled, like, Top 10 Darkest Ninjago Moments or something like that, there's not actually any specific order going on here. It's just 10 moments that I think are actually really dark in comparison to the rest of Ninjago. And while the normal Ninjago show is, again, sort of upbeat and light in tone, there are some moments such as these that get really dark and serious. So we're going to go ahead and break these down here scene by scene, and let's get started. So, kicking things off is the reveal of Harumi's origin story, of course from the 8th season of Ninjago, and right away here we're looking at some very dark tones for the season, and I must say that Season 8 does have a few entries on this list, because compared to every other season, Sons of Garmadon was very dark in tone, and yeah, it definitely had a lot going on in terms of actual seriousness, but Harumi's origin in general is very dark, especially when you consider the context. So basically, Harumi's parents were killed during the Great Devourer incident, and we see during a flashback they basically rushed to protect her while sort of sacrificing themselves because of a collapsing building, which again was caused by the Great Devourer's rampage throughout Ninjago City. Now, not only does this sort of reveal Harumi's darker past, it also goes ahead and reveals that, ninja fights do cause a lot of damage, and sometimes the battles, especially in Ninjago City, do cause a lot of death, as we saw with Harumi's parents being killed by the Great Devourer. Of course, Garmadon went ahead and actually defeated the Devourer, and because of that, specifically Harumi, went ahead and idolized Garmadon. But in general, when you look at it, this entire situation is really dark, and, in a sense, it really doesn't belong in a show about Lego ninja people, but it kind of works, especially in setting up Harumi's origin story and her backstory and her motivation to becoming an actual villain. Next up, we have Kai's rage during the 4th season of Ninjago. Of course, in the 4th Ninjago season, it was all about the Tournament of Elements, of course sponsored by Master Chen himself, and his goal was to overall collect all of the elements in a singular staff and use that staff to basically control all the elements. And when Kai got his hands on that staff during one of the fights later on in the season, it did not go well for him personally. Kai started being corrupted by the staff and spouting incomprehensible nonsense and basically yelling at Lloyd, basically revealing his true, feelings deep down, that he's still jealous of the Green Ninja because Kai believes that he should have held that title. And the reason I put this on the list is because just of how corrupt this whole thing was, and just how scary Kai could be, and just how many dark emotions he's kept bottled down because the Staff of Elements went ahead and brought those to light, and it wasn't really working in his favor. We actually got to look into Kai's dark mind, and it was pretty scary. Next up, we have the scene from Season 5 in which the ninjas see their reflections. This one really isn't as dark as some other entries on the list, but I still put it on here because I do think it's necessary. All of the ninja are seeing glimpses of their futures, and it's all looking bright except for Cole, who sees nothing. Now, this is not because he is a ghost, as Zane specifically states in the following line. Ghosts can cast reflections, so Cole was basically seeing his future, which was nothing, which means Cole's death is most likely confirmed, and yeah, we're just waiting on that at this point. Not that I want Cole to die or anything, but we do know that it's coming, and this scene specifically shows us that. So again, the context really isn't that dark, but when you think about the future of Ninjago, this scene really does set up a very grim and dark ending for Cole. Next up, we have the Ultra Dragon's remains being used as the Iron Baron's throne. So a lot of you guys brought this up to me, and I haven't really done a specific video talking about this besides, the videos as to where the Ultra Dragon has gone. But the Iron Baron's throne in the Season 9 story of Ninjago is made up of the bones of the Ultra Dragon. You can see multiple dragon heads and multiple, various bones belonging to the ninja's previous dragon, and it was confirmed by one of the creators, I believe, or maybe the writers. I forget who confirmed it, but somebody confirmed that the Iron Baron's throne is in fact made up of the deceased Ultra Dragon. So rest in peace, Ultra Dragon, you will be missed, but at least, you're still around in terms of the show. I mean, you're still being utilized as a throne for the Iron Baron, so I guess that's something. But this does show that something such as the ninjas' old pets and the old dragons definitely are not safe from death. you know, considering how we basically see their remains in this very scene here with the Iron Baron. So kind of dark there, but I give Ninjago props for, you know, putting that in there because it was really brave. Next up, we have the 8th season finale in which the ninja are presumably killed. Now, Harumi here again brings a lot of the darkness into the 8th season of Ninjago with her backstory and her motivation, and right here we see what that accumulates into as, you know, Harumi and Garmadon's Oni Titan basically crushed the Destiny's bounty, filled with, as far as Lloyd knows, the original 4 ninja and baby Master Wu. Very, very shocking there, considering, you know, if you were in Lloyd's spot, you basically watched your friends and your master, who was basically a baby, you just watched them all die for nothing. So in a way, that's very dark, and we see how that affects Lloyd's character later on. Of course, we as an audience know that the ninja and Master Wu are fine, as they teleported out of there into the Oni and Dragon Realm before the Destiny's bounty was crushed by the Oni Titan, but still, that was very dark to show, and especially dark considering, you know, Lloyd's feelings in that. We don't really know what specifically he was thinking during that moment, but we could tell he wasn't happy about it, as, you know, any sane person would be, and we could see how that would motivate him in the next scene to come. Next up, speaking of Lloyd, we have the bit in Season 3 in which his golden power is stripped away from him by the Overlord himself. Lloyd is left helpless and weak and wounded in basically a cage of sorts, while the Overlord continuously, you know, draws out his golden power to use for his own means. And seeing Lloyd in pain and basically being tortured with no hope and no, you know, hope of rescue at all is very dark and very tragic, especially considering where Lloyd has come from. Lloyd at this point in Ninjago is still a kid. He's still very young, and he's still just developing his powers, and while he did have a lot of power to begin with, that was all taken away very quickly here because of the Overlord. And again, none of the ninja were there to help him. He was basically on his own, and he could not do anything. He was totally helpless, and because of that, I'm putting it on the list, just because we saw a completely helpless character basically have his life stripped away from him in the blink of an eye. Next up, another one featuring the Overlord, the bit in Season 2 in which the Overlord possesses Garmadon. So basically this is when the Overlord reveals his true plans to Lord Garmadon and possesses him promptly to, you know, take over his body. Now that the balance between good and evil has been broken, the Overlord can go back into Ninjago in a physical form, and he uses Garmadon's body as a base for that, which is very dark. And at this point, Garmadon is pretty much out of commission until we see him again after the final battle, because at this point he basically has had his body taken away from him. It's no longer him. He was probably still conscious when he was in there too, which is another very tragic thing to think about. But considering how the Overlord basically does not care about Garmadon in any way, it definitely shows how dark and mysterious and evil his character really is, and his actual motivations being revealed are quite terrifying to say the least. Next up here we have the battle in which Narukon takes on each of the ninja individually during the finale of the 6th Ninjago season. Now the reason this is on the list is strictly because what Narukon does to the ninja. Basically he attacks them with the Djinn blade of sorts and using his power, and he basically turns the ninja into gold statues of themselves, completely immobilizing them and completely taking them out of the world. And you could argue that the entirety of Narukon's plan was really dark as well, because he was basically stealing people's souls and keeping them in a sword, you know, keeping them unable to see or hear anything from the outside world. They're basically in a suspended animation state, and I guess that entire season could be considered dark in that sense, but specifically the final battle is what really caught me off guard, considering just what Narukon was willing to do to win against the ninja. He was basically willing to go ahead and turn them into actual bronze and all that to, you know, go ahead and immobilize them and take them on one by one, or take them out rather, which is very, you know, evil of Narukon to do. And while Narukon is a very evil villain, something like this we really haven't seen being done in previous seasons, so props to Season 6 for making this battle especially dark. Next up here we have the scene in Season 7 in which Kai meets his father, you know, seemingly alive again after years of Kai and Nia thinking that he was dead. Now Kai suddenly opens up a door and there he is, so just that alone is a very dark scene, especially for Kai. Kai really does not have it easy in the land of Ninjago. He definitely gets the short end of the stick when it comes to actual tragedy happening to him personally, and I'm not saying that other ninja don't, but Kai seems to get it the most when you think about it. And this eventually leads into a very emotional battle between Kai and his father, because remember at this point Kai thinks that his father is also working with the Vermilion Army and with the Chronix and Crux, so it makes a lot of sense that Kai would be full of these darker emotions and these more, you know, violent natures and things like that, and all that comes through in this battle. It's one of my favorite battles throughout the entirety of Ninjago, and, you know, not only because of the nice choreography, but it's because we also get to see Kai as a character, and we actually get to see him humanized a little bit more because of these tragic emotions pulling him forward. In my opinion, this definitely goes to show that Kai is not a ninja to be taken lightly, and he is not a ninja that lets his emotions hide. Next up here, we have the battle in which Lloyd faces Garmadon in Cryptarian prison on his own during the last few episodes of Ninjago Season 8. Now, the reason I'm putting this on the list is strictly because of the consequences surrounding this battle and the motivations coming from Lloyd's character in general. So when you think about it, Lloyd as a character really had a lot going on during the 8th season of Ninjago, and considering where he ended up towards the end of it, I'm not surprised that he actually went ahead and lost this battle, because he was really no match for his newly revived father, not only in terms of physical strength and capacity, but also in terms of his emotional state as well. Because think about it, Lloyd's father has been dead for how long, and now he's suddenly back and he's evil, and, you know, specifically the line, "I have no son," alone basically provides the dark tone for this overall battle. And yet again, this is another example of why Season 8 is probably one of the darker seasons out there, specifically because of this little scene here, and the way that Garmadon does not remember Lloyd, or just simply does not care about Lloyd in general. All that is very dark. You know, I don't know if there's any other way to say it. It's just really dark in terms of something that's in Ninjago. When you think of Ninjago, you don't think about all of these dark scenes, but there are a few scenes throughout Ninjago, such as the ones that I've listed here, that are especially dark and terrifying when you actually think about it, and I was happy to do this list for you guys. I think this was a fun list to do, and I know that there are other moments in Ninjago that do summarize the darkness that the series does have within it, but unfortunately this was just a list of 10 that I had come up with, and at least 10 of my favorite ones. Again, these were not in any specific order whatsoever. These were just 10 things in Ninjago that I found to be sort of abnormally dark for the overall tone of the series. And again, do keep in mind, Ninjago is by definition a children's TV program, but, you know, people, or older Ninjago fans such as myself, do like to watch it specifically because of these dark moments. So with that being said, that'll just about do it for this video here. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, as always, don't forget to give it a huge thumbs up rating, and of course, as always, remember to hit the subscribe button if you've not done so already. Once again, guys, do remember that the comment section is yours for the various discussions that you would like to have regarding this topic, or if you just had a comment of a general nature, that's fine as well. In the description, you will find links towards my other forms of social media, whether it be my Twitter, my Instagram, my Patreon, or my merch. Be sure to support me on all those platforms if you would like to. With that being said, you guys, thank you so much for watching this video here. My name is TannerFishies, and with that, I bid you farewell.